I wanted to kind of talk about the love-hate relationship, man, with our guy, the director, Allen Hughes. Iconic director, of course, but he was on Rap Radar the other day talking a little greasy, man, about Pac, man. I got a little clip, man, fair use, man, for educational purposes only.
Rock star of that era. Mm-hmm. And in the same era, he's on trial for murder. Mm. And thank God beats the case. And then you got all that little window where Snoop dimmed his light for Tupac. I never understood that back then. I remember Snoop just dimming his light and letting Tupac shine when Snoop was the guy, you know? And then what happened after and what happened with Death Row. But the movie's Snoop Dogg, 17 to 27.
Straight cap. My sound effects tonight, man. I got my sound effects tonight,
man.
What's your thoughts, man, on the iconic director Allen Hughes, which he's been always connected with Pac?
I wouldn't say iconic. He has one good movie.
We're showing some love tonight. But the whole thing is, like, he's always been connected with Pac, but he has this thing of bigging up Pac, but still kind of hitting him below the belt at the same time. Dimming the light, Snoop dimming his light for Pac. Pac was the bigger artist at the time. Let's be clear. Now, Snoop was hot, but come on, man. Pac was Pac. Let's be clear. What's your thoughts on the director, Allen Hughes, man, kind of going a little greasy on this talk about Snoop dimming his life for Pac, and do you believe it's true or not?
It just seems like every damn week we're talking about this director that really hasn't done nothing the last 10 years besides do this docuseries on Tupac. It just seems like this guy just going off the rail. Everywhere he goes, he wants to talk about Tupac. And this is what I've been saying on, I think on episode 1 of Scandalous Talk, maybe, and I said on Fresh Out Hip Hop, where we talked about this guy, slandering Tupac for 30 years, saying, oh, Tupac's punches felt like Nerf balls. It wasn't Tupac that beat me up. It was 10 other dudes. He also said that Tupac went in jealous rage and shaved off all his head with a razor because of a female, which wasn't true. It's because he had alopecia from the police brutality that he suffered. This guy just been making shit up, slandering Pac, but still doing a series on Tupac, which I don't really understand why. And a lot of Tupac fans, this is a great series. It is a great series, but this guy doesn't have to be going on Rap Radar and Hip Hop DX and all these other platforms and still talking shit about Pac. Don't you have other things to talk about? Talk about your movie career or whatever. It just seems like this guy's just using Pac. This guy made a career off Pac, and now he's using Pac to get back in the news and be relevant. And that's all it is. Now, if you want to talk about Snoop Dogg, Tupac already had Me Against the World as the #1 album while incarcerated under Interscope Records. He wasn't even signed to Death Row. And he had Dear Mama, one of the biggest songs of that year in 94, 95. Come on, so let's be real. And Tupac was already in the news from shooting 2 police officers. He was already in the news for beating up Allen Hughes. He was already in the news for so many other damn things. He was already more known and relevant than Snoop Dogg. Now, even though Doggy Style was a great album and sold well, let's be real, Tupac was the most talked about rapper at that time period. So to say that Tupac went to Death Row and Snoop had to dim his light, no, what happened was Tupac went to Death Row and he outworked everybody. He outworked everybody. It took Snoop Dogg to make a new album in 2 years. It took Tupac to make a new album in like 2 days, right? This dude made like 10 albums in a week. That's how much this guy was a workhorse. And there's still unreleased music from this guy. So, Allen Hughes could say all he wanted about this, but everybody knows that Tupac went there. And the reason why they started like saying, hey, Tupac, your album, All Eyes Me's coming out, and why Tupac became a priority is because he was running laps around everybody at Death Row. And that's just real talk.
Yeah, and let's be clear too. Even Snoop even said himself, he said, Pac came in and changed my whole wardrobe. He said, hey, man, we need to be dressed like gangsters. We need to be driving these kind of cars. We need to be doing this. Let's go over here and get these tailored Italian suits. They went from white tees and chucks over to wearing suits and stuff. So he actually changed his whole attire, which you saw that on The Dogfather. Let's be clear.
Yep.
So, again, I would have to argue with that a little bit by saying, hey, man, Pac was the bigger artist, bigger name. He came over there and outworked him. Even Corrupt said, hey, man, he changed how we worked over at Death Row.
And it wasn't really Tupac's decision to say, hey, Snoop Dogg, your album can't come out. That was Suge Knight. And that was really Snoop Dogg. He could put that album out whenever he wanted. There was a whole time period before February when All Eyes Me dropped in 96. And there was a time period before November when Machiavelli, dropped. He could easily move any of those songs that he crafted for 3 years, 2 years to drop at that period. It's just Tupac was an incredible workhorse and that he made so many songs per day. And that's what it is. And then there was producers called the Whack Room producers that nobody wanted to fuck with. But as soon as Tupac started making the Machiavelli album, everybody wanted to fuck with him. It just shows work ethic Tupac had and how he was able to take unknown talents and showcase them to the world, and everybody wanted to piggyback off that. Now, I'm not trying to hate on Snoop, but it is what it is. Like, having 2 American Most Wanted was good for Snoop. It put Snoop back out there when he didn't have an album in a couple of years. You know, and all those features that they were doing, like Street Life and stuff, would have put him back out there. It was a win-win situation for Tupac to come to Death Row. It's like having a tag team, you know, Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan teaming up. You know, you're going to get more publicity being together.
Yeah, facts.
And I always say that because T-Busy, you know, he's a big Hulk Hogan fan in my chat.
Shout to T-Busy up in here, man. Salute. But again, like I said, at the time, man, like, again, we weren't looking at it like that. We weren't looking at it like, oh, man, you know, Pac is this or Snoop is that.
No.
Like, hey, man, it was a great team. Like, that vibe cover said it all, man. Like, hey, we're going to take over the whole situation as a family.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, that was Suge. That wasn't Pac. But again, who's stupid to say, hey, man, let's still do a rollout for Snoop when we have the hottest artist coming out of the pen, man, going crazy.
Exactly.
With this whole situation, man. Let's use this situation to big up everybody. Obviously, things happened at the end that were unfortunate. But at the end of the day, man, it was a great rollout, man. Again, Danny Boy benefited off all this situation as well, man, with a slip and slide record, man. I don't think it would be as big if he wasn't on those records with Pac. Let's be clear.
And that's the other thing. Like, All Eyes on Me, it's not just a straight solo album. Like, he showcases everybody from Death Row, basically, you know, and all the singers on there, Nancy Fletcher and stuff like that, they get a lot of attention by being just on Tupac's records. It's not really just a Death Row, like, get-together album, but those Tupac wanted to make the best music with the artists that he had there, because he was very much loyal to his label. As much as people want to say he was leaving, if you were working with him, he tried to make you shine. But if you didn't have your verse done, you weren't getting on the track, and that's the way it was.
No. The reason why we have this Scandalous talk, man, because we want to clear up stuff. So we're not knocking nobody, but you can't lie or recreate history by saying certain things on a major platform. Let's be clear. So this is why we had this Scandalous talk. We talk about these things, man. Again, salute to Snoop. If you was out there and you was outside at the time, you understood, man. There wasn't no dimming no light, man. This was basically bringing more light to Death Row, bringing it back to the West Coast. Let's be clear, because the East Coast was running it at the time. And when Pac went over there, it just went bananas. Even like some of the artists that were on All Eyes on Me. What's my guy, man? Something about the West Coast. Remember that dude?
I'm trying to think. I know what song you're talking about.
He was on the second disc, man. My guy, Richie Rich.
Oh, yeah,
Richie Rich out, man. Richie Rich went crazy, too. So Richie Rich even benefited off of as well.
Ain't hard to find.
Yeah, it ain't hard to find joint. He was on that Rather Be Your N-Word. You know what I'm saying? That was my joint. You know what I'm saying?
And he was on Me Against the World on Heavy in the Game track.
So again, like, all these artists benefited off Pac going out to the West Coast and going crazy. Again, E40 he was in almost every E40 video, man, at the time. So again, like I said, got to call cap on Allen Hughes, man. Again, I think there's some little bitterness, man. Because, again, they started the interview off with Pac and then went into his stuff. So
yeah, I kind of get it that, you know, since he just fresh off this docuseries and he's known for, like, Tupac's music videos and stuff, I can get, like, why some hosts want to speak about it. But, like, you can do it in a respectful manner. You don't got to say, oh, he dimmed his light and Tupac punched this way. You know? Yeah. If you don't want to talk about Pac, don't talk about it. Don't take it serious if you hate this guy. That's all I'm saying.
And then shout out, man, to everybody in the building, man. Power 800, man. That Richie Rich. Yes, Richie Rich was going crazy, man. Everybody at the time, man. So, again, when Pac went over there, it just blew the whole spot up. Everybody was selling records. So, again, we got to call cap on that, man. Power's also saying, man, E40 Spice 1, man, was going crazy, too.
And you see what happened when Pac died. Like, all the plans from Death Row were halted, right? Death Row East, all the signings that they were trying to get Wu-Tang and Mary J. Blige and, you know, getting Craig Mack, you know, they're going to bring him back in the Hammer album. You know, all that. It just shows you, like, how much he brought to the table. Like, he just went there and became, like, the Death Row president, basically.
Yeah, he was going hard.
And I think that's where a lot of jealousy comes about.
And to me, that goes back to the last question. To this day, I think they're still jealous. You know what I'm saying? And this is why they don't celebrate him as much as they did, because he turned the whole industry on his side, man.